What's up, everyone? Happy Tuesday. We're here at Art of War with another Tier List Tuesday. How are you doing, Jack?
Oh, I'm doing good. Every Tuesday's a new adventure.
Absolutely. Every Tier List Tuesday is a great day because today's the day where we go live on YouTube and do another tier list for Art of War talking about Warhammer 40k. In this video, we're going to be talking about the top 10 vehicles and monsters in 10th edition of Warhammer 40,000.
That's right. Big, chunky vehicles or big, gribbly monsters, always the most fun thing to put down on the board.
It's the best way to play 40k is to just put your big toys on the table and run them at people.
Big, stompy robots. We all like to pose with G.I. Joes or whatever in middle school. This is basically the same thing.
Absolutely.
You get I mean, I didn't actually, now I'm thinking about it. But you get basically a giant, stompy robot or a big monster.
Yeah. Just
everyone's having a good time.
Throw them at each other, make some noises, have some fun. So, in this video, we're going to be ranking our opinion on the top 10 vehicles and monsters in 10th edition. We've got a couple honorable mentions as well. But if you like this content, if you enjoy these tier lists, make sure that you like this content. Click the like button, maybe share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing to the channel really helps us grow. It helps us be able to make this kind of content for you. So if you enjoyed this and you want to see more of it, hit those buttons. All right, you ready for this, Jack?
I'm born ready for this. All right. Up first is honorable mention number 3.
This is honorable mention number 1 in my heart. This is the Gladiator Lancer. Yeah. I think this tank is amazing. So the Gladiator Lancer is one of the best tanks, like the best just mainline battle tanks in the game. It's in Space Marines, a pretty competitive army right now, and the Lancer is just one of those more reliable anti-tank platforms. We've got a lot of anti-tank weapons in the game. A lot of them sometimes just don't do anything. The Lancer is actually pretty good at its job. That's because its special rule, its Aquilon targeting optics, gives it 1 reroll to hit and wound and damage every time it shoots. It comes with a plethora of small guns that add up to, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 20 anti-infantry shots at strength 4, depending on blast weapons and what you're shooting at and storm bolters. It's just a lot of random dice that you just get to throw an infantry unit on the side. That's cool. Here's what's important. It has a big laser.
A big gun.
It has a big laser, and that big laser is 2 shots at range, yes. Strength 14?
Strength, yes. AP, no. Damage,
it's a lot. AP 4, damage, D6 plus 3.
With a free reroll.
So you're wounding basically every main vehicle on a 3. And you have a reroll the wound. You're hitting on a 3 because you're a Space Marine, and you have a reroll. Your AP 4, no one is getting a good armor save against you anymore. That ship has sailed.
That's right.
If they have an invuln, they're taking their invuln. And D6 plus 3 damage is going to actually connect pretty hard. Plus, I love that ability to roll a hit, a wound, a damage.
That's right. It just makes it a lot more reliable, especially when you're shooting at your target that isn't Oath of Moment. Because everything's good when you shoot at whatever lets you reroll hits and wounds.
Absolutely.
But this lets you shoot at other targets more profitably. It's like the platonic ideal of what a main battle tank would be in 40k.
Yeah.
It has a big anti-tank gun and a lot of little anti-tank shots, and it's reasonably durable.
You may not like it. This is peak battle tank form.
Oh, it certainly isn't. We will get to what peak battle tank performance looks like.
Peak battle tank performance, come on.
Right, it is. This is probably my favorite vehicle on the list, I would have to say.
This is my favorite. I was fighting to get in the honorable mentions, but honestly, I would consider putting it up there. The Lancer makes me very happy. But there's some really great vehicles in this game, so it's stiff competition. Ready for the next one?
Speaking of which, honorable mention number 2. We've got the Doomsday Arc.
All right, Mr. Jack. Jack, you've been known to be a little bit of a Kron expert yourself when
on occasion.
Comes to show. On occasion, when you want to. So the Doomsday Arc is the giant laser cannon where they took a Ghost Arc, flipped it upside down, shook it until the warriors fell out.
Yeah, they don't need those.
And then you just slap the laser cannon in.
It's probably the biggest gun. There's one later that might be bigger, but it is one of the biggest guns. You can tell this whole vehicle is built around this gun, and with good reason. D6 plus 1 shots blast at strength 15 for some reason. AP 4, damage 4. With heavy, so if it stands still, you hit on 2s,
Solid.
And devastating wounds if it stands still to drop mortals on your opponent. If you are a large unit, blast and devastating wounds means no, you're not anymore. And if you're a large vehicle, then strength 15, AP 4, damage 4 means you're not.
Yep. Very solid profile here. Lacking the rerolls, but a lot more shots, even if it's a little bit random.
It is. It is at the mercy of if you roll a 1 or a 2 for number of shots, it's not the best. But it can just roll like 5, smoke any tank in the game, or if you take them in multiples. Now, it does just hit on 3s, so you want the Sovereign Coronal nearby to make it hit on 2s.
Or to hold still.
Or to hold still. So, the Doomsday Arc is scary, and you don't see anyone taking them by themselves. You'd see 2 or 3.
Agreed. Yeah, they definitely hunt in packs. I think Doomsday Arc's phenomenal. You know, much like the Lancer, it comes with a kind of like an array of side battery little guns, and it just has like 10 of them. So it ends up actually putting out a respectable amount of anti-infantry shots into something on this side. It's also quite durable. We didn't really talk much about the durability of the Lancer. That's because it is a very standard T10 3-up armor save tank with like, I don't know, 12 wounds or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
The Doomsday Arc is a little more fragile, but also a little more durable in a very weird way.
Yeah, so it has toughness 9, which is lower than what you would think it would be. That's kind of how all Necron vehicles are. Yep. Very low toughness. But it has a 4-up invulnerable save.
It's pretty good.
That's real good. And then it also has 14 wounds.
Yep.
And if it's near a reanimator, it'll reanimate for 2d3 at the start of the Necron player's turn. And it can also be healed D3 by a Technomancer. So it'll heal for 6 on average.
So when I said it was less durable, it's just -1 toughness and better at everything else.
Plus 2 wounds, a 4-up invuln, which means nothing can ever reliably kill it.
Yeah.
Because if you fire a Lancer at this thing, you could kill it, or you could do 0 damage. And with a CP reroll, you're much more likely to get 0 damage than to kill it. And then even if you sink 1 shot through, get 6 damage, guess what? It's back to full, still shooting you.
Yeah, this thing is just a pain in the butt.
It's just
a pain in the butt.
Annoying to try to kill. Really, really hard. It's just...
Yeah, no, it really is.
Especially when it's behind a Necron army, you're like, nothing here is easily killable. What is going on?
Yeah, so Doomsday Arc really got a good honorable mention because it's good support firepower. Also, how these vehicles fit into their army does kind of help define where they place in this role. So Necrons just kind of suffer for long-ranged, good firepower. So the Doomsday Arc gets a shout-out here because it's their best option for it. Lancer, the best, like, reliable, long-ranged anti-vehicle firepower that Space Marines can muster as well without stepping their Desolators into line of sight, something you don't want to do early. So kind of their role within a faction can help get these vehicles where they are.
Absolutely.
All right, one more honorable mention. One more,
and you could make the case.
It's like a Lancer that still has the flight keyword.
One could make the case that this belongs on the top 10 list. But one also doesn't want to see 20 Eldar vehicles in the top 10 list. Let's get some diversity in here. So, and also, an Eldar list can't include 50 million vehicles. So we decided to just put the best ones. Fire Prism is very, very strong.
Yeah.
It's very good. But again, you don't just want to have, 30 Eldar tanks up in the top 10. It gets boring after a while. And they're also all the same flavor, They all fire 2 lances at you.
So let's talk about what the Fire Prism actually does, because this thing is criminal. I like it. It honestly, maybe it should be higher up. I don't know. But, there's some good options coming up, too. So the Fire Prism has 2 profiles on the Prism Laser, which is the main weapon here. It has a focused and a dispersed shot. Its focused shot is 2 shots, strength, I want to say 16. It's high.
It's very high, yeah.
AP is 4, also very high. Damage is 6. So if you compare this main gun to main gun against the Lancer, I'd say this comes out slightly ahead. It's also range infinite. The Lancer gun might be better with that reroll damage, but the Fire Prism also has the dispersed profile. And that dispersed profile is where this thing gets absolutely gnarly, as if it wasn't already gnarly. It's like 2d6 shots blast at was it 612?
I think it's 622.
Is it 622? It's
I know that
it's a better Marine killer than I want it to be. Because I lose Marines fast enough when people just put damage 6 AP 4 here's 2 wounds into me. That kills me fast enough for me to be unhappy. I know that the split profile on this thing is better than I want. While Jack looks that up...
It is 2d6 shots blast at 612.
612, okay.
Yes, at 60-inch range.
Obviously. Well, God forbid the Elder player out of range.
I couldn't imagine.
Mm-hmm. So, that's a good gun. It comes with a shuriken cannon on the bottom, whatever. You're here for the big gun.
The prism can's strength 18.
Oh, it's 18, not 16. That's my bad.
So it actually wounds Doomsday Arcs on 2s.
It wounds them automatically. That's all we need to know.
Oh, that's true.
So let's talk about the rules this bad boy has. So first up, in the context of Eldar, it does get to reroll a hit and a wound because it's in the Eldar Cloud Strike detachment, whatever they call it. If you take an Eldar, there's only one detachment. You roll a hit roll, a wound roll. And a 2-shot gun, that's very strong. We saw that with the Lancer. That's great. Okay, this thing's like a flying Lancer. But it has 2 rules of its own. Not one, like most battle tanks. It has 2 rules of its own. It has a crystal targeting matrix. So it can reroll a hit roll and a wound roll. Well, that's useless. That's redundant. Why would you need that roll twice? Oh, what if you wanted to reroll 2 hits or 2 wounds?
Yeah, it turns out that's pretty good. The amount of times I've seen someone just blank both shots and be like, oh, missed both. Anyway, hit both and wounded both. God damn it. We were literally celebrating at ATC when your opponent failed a single wound roll.
Absolutely.
At any point.
Yep. And it's a little bit of a joke. This thing is so reliable. But yeah, I was playing against 3 Fire Prisms at ATC this past weekend, and I think it took till turn like 4 for a Fire Prism to fail to convert a shot.
Yeah. And, we joke high-fived and cheered.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it finally happened. Great fun. It finally happened.
It's so reliable at just putting 2 shots, reroll the hits, 2 wounds, reroll the wounds. It just gets its shots through as reliably as you could ever ask.
What if it's out of line of sight, though, John?
That's fair. The only way to hide against a giant direct fire anti-tank laser is to hide out of line of sight. However, these prisms can shoot each other.
Get wrecked.
Yeah. So here's how it works. So a fire prism, when firing its focused shot, so not the blast shot, this is actually very important. When firing its focused shot, it can instead choose to measure range and line of sight from any fire prism model that it itself can see.
Yeah, basically the idea is it shoots at the other tank, who then redirects the beam out at you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been something Fire Prism can do, although it used to take CP and be a stratagem, not be as good. Not just be free.
Yeah, making that free really, really hurt. Because then, of course, you can fire and fade the 1 Fire Prism that went out backwards, but they only have to risk 1 tank at a time in order to fire all 3. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, because also they can spread out a lot, and then just in the movement phase make sure that every Fire Prism can see the very tip of a different one, and suddenly all the shots go behind a wall, or to this objective.
Yep, there's no getting away from them, because you can get away from like a couple of the Fire Prisms, but that doesn't matter. As long as one of these things that move 14 inches can see you with the tip of its very long gun, they all 3 can.
It's the worst, yeah.
It's not fun. You're just taking shots. They don't fail to hit. They don't fail to wound. They don't fail to see you. Mm-hmm. You're just taking shots and taking damage the whole game.
Well, as we talk about this Fire Prism, it is hard to imagine that there are 10 vehicles and monsters that we put ahead of this bad boy. This thing is a floating war crime. So
what if we go from a 150-point tank to something a little cheaper? In the words of Knobs Burgers, even a get-nose, trucks are the best.
Oh, Knobs Burgers, what a well-timed super chat. Thank you so much for your support. And just for that, we're putting trucks as number 10 on the tier list. That's right. Orcs made the list ahead of the Fire Prism.
That's right. Because what's better than being a 150-point battle tank that shoots really hard is being a 50-point idiot that runs around.
Are they 50?
They're 50.
I thought they were like 40.
No, they're 50.
They're 50? Okay,
they're 50.
Cool. So the truck is the cheapest dedicated transport in the game.
Possibly the cheapest dedicated transport since 7th edition.
I think so. Like the last time we had like 35-point rhinos.
Yeah.
I'm quite confident that it is in fact the cheapest one. This thing's great.
It's not even a bad transport, is the thing.
Yeah, like a truck is just like a rhino, except they decided to take the Stormbolter off and then half the price. It's like, oh.
Yeah, that's all I wanted. I didn't want that Stormbolter. I'll use it if I have it, but I don't want it.
No, a truck is a very cheap transport. It is not particularly durable. It's 50 points, right?
It's 50 points.
Okay.
It's tough. T8 with a 4-up save, 10 wounds. It does heal a wound every command phase, which is adorable.
In its or every?
At the start of your command phase.
Fair.
Yeah.
Still, I don't want my transports to be good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to spend points on them.
I don't want to. I just want to put a little cheap shell around my unit and drive it where it needs to go. And that's all I want to do. It's also a dedicated transport, so you can take 6 of them. 6 of these bad boys is 300 points. What is that?
It's a lot of bring it down points, but it's also just very inconvenient to shoot through before you get to the actual units inside. Because a truck isn't going to do damage. It can like tag you in tank shock. It can like try to pretend to be real. And that's very cute. I believe it's has like firing deck 10. So if you actually put some guns in there, you could do something cool.
Firing deck 12, but yeah.
12, of course. But yeah, this is just a cheap thing. But like a cheap vehicle is still a vehicle. You still aren't killing trucks with bolt guns.
Yep, and if you put that around every orc in your army, guess what? It's going to take you a long time to get through them. There's something called activation locking, which is not something that gets talked about very often. But it's if your opponent has 4 activations that can kill... If they have 4 units that when they shoot will kill a unit of yours. But they have to spend an entire activation of a unit to kill a truck... That is what's called activation locking. If you have 6 trucks with 6 units inside, there's only so fast they can get through your army, with the amount of activations they have.
Absolutely. If a Knight Crusader sees a truck and 10 boys standing next to each other, it could kill them all. If a Knight Crusader sees a truck with 10 boys inside, it can't kill the boys.
Yep. It can shoot the truck to death 50 times, but that won't hurt the guys inside. They get out, they're still set.
Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 dies, but 8 boys not getting shot by a Crusader, orc player happy.
Yes.
Yep.
And if your opponent has 3 big knights, they're killing 3 trucks, or they're killing what they can see, which is the trucks, then you get out and they have to fire a whole nother knight into it, and it slows them down a lot.
Absolutely. And what really sells the truck in the list, and again, over the Fire Prism for me, is its role within the faction. The Fire Prism is one of like 7 different ways to get 2 really good laser shots. The truck defines orcs.
At this point, honestly, yeah, having a super cheap transport you can spam, run around the board with, is nuts. Also, they can do actions, because everything can do actions now. So once you toss your boys out, your trucks can just run around doing cleanse or deploy teleport homers or anything like that for 50 points while being obnoxious to try to kill. In addition, they can just bumper cars your opponent.
Absolutely.
They just run around, they find something that can't kill a toughness 8 vehicle in combat, and they just run into it. And they don't care. They just sit there vibing.
There's a lot of things that can't do that. And a lot of things that can kill a truck in melee can't kill 2.
Yep, and you hit 1 on either side of the unit. They hit both down to like 4. And you're like, sweet, you're staying there. While the rest of the orc list does whatever it wants, really.
It's very easy to kill a truck when there's 6 of them on the line full of dudes running at you. It's very hard to kill a truck after the dudes get out.
Yes. It is also very easy to kill a truck when there's 6 of them on the line, and especially if you've invested at all in big tracks, which are 75-point trucks that are a little better in ways that don't matter. But if your opponent has invested in a lot of trucks, it's very easy to kill 1. You can get 2. You can reach and get 3. But 6 is not happening.
Yeah, there are very few armies in the game that can just look at 6 trucks and be like, yeah, this isn't a problem.
No, this is fine. 60 dudes inside, I swear, I'll get through all the trucks and the boys.
Yeah, it's a problem for next turn.
yeah, and then you have, like 80 orcs swarming you.
Yeah, I think most orc players would gladly donate 300 points turn 1. Just call it a day. Yep, it's all right.
Just
turn
blank
2,
your
I got
punch.
1,700 points, no problem.
Exactly. And as I said, big tracks make this so you can take 9, basically.
Yeah. All right, so we've got another super chat from Knobs Burgers while we're on the orc train.
That's right. Wog!
Yeah, I needed Jack to do it.
Yeah,
really get that G in there.
Get that G. Also, the truck is a 6 of Infold, which is so
just
fun.
Enough to be a little annoying.
Just enough to occasionally be like, hey, you didn't kill me. And then a second activation needs to kill it. Awesome.
Hilarious.
Awesome. All right. Next up, we got the Brigand, the general workhorse of Chaos Knights.
All right. So, love me the Brigand. So, the Chaos Knight Brigand, the War Dog Brigand, is one of the dogs that, in my mind, was very good in 9th and just got better in 10th. So, the Brigand is the double gun knight for Chaos Knights. And what normally happens with Knights and Chaos Knights throughout the years is they say, all right, this is the Knight profile. You can take 1 gun in combat, or you can take 2 guns, but if you take 2 melee, we're going to make you better in melee. Like a Gallant is always been a little faster in weapon skill too. A Rampager got the same thing. But they usually didn't grab the double gun knight and say, well, we're going to make you ballistic skill 2 just to make you feel better about only having guns. That usually hasn't been necessary.
Yeah, because shooting is better than combat. If somebody is pure melee, you do need to make them like actually good at it.
But they decided in 10th edition that the Brigand would be ballistic skill 2, and good golly, Miss Molly, I already had 6 of these boys. But they are strong now. And to top it off, they give it a great special roll. So a Brigand is normal Wardog profile. It's not that expensive. I think it's $150.
It's something quite cheap. It's
quite
not
affordable.
as much as I would like as the guy staring them down.
Comes with 2 weapons. It comes with a Demon Breath Spear, which is a 2-shot, 24-inch, strength 12 multi-melta. It's also melta 4, so just a 2-shot, 12 minus 4 d6 melta 4 gun. Pretty solid. Ballistic skill 2 helps a lot because that's not a high shot count. There's not a lot of rerolls. It also has a Chen cannon, 12 shots at 611. But again, hitting on 2s makes that no reroll weight of dice very reliable. And it comes with a top gun. But its rule is amazing because in a world where everyone lost AP, transitioning from 9th to 10th, the Brigand did too. But the Brigand gets +1 AP when it targets the closest eligible enemy unit.
That's pretty scary.
And that means that Chain Cannon is right back to AP2, where volume of AP2 isn't a thing a lot of people do. That Demon Breath Spear goes to AP5. It's like a normal Demon Breath Spear that ignores cover when it shoots at a rhino. Just don't take saves, die. AP5 is a heck of a drug.
You're hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, and just 2 go through, you're gone. Bye-bye.
Yep.
No saves.
Yep. The Brigand's phenomenal. You can do some really cute tricks with it. It does have that limit where its best AP is when it targets the closest eligible target. But funny thing, Chaos Knights have a really good stratagem where they pick an enemy unit and they pick a number of war dogs, however many they want. And all of those war dogs get sustained hits against that enemy unit. That's good for shooting knights, right?
Yeah.
But they also have to target that unit. So they can't split fire. They have to target that unit, but they get sustained once. Funny enough, that will turn that into the closest eligible unit because it's the only eligible unit. So if someone is trying to screen you by putting little trash in front of you to soak up the Brigand, you just spend the CP, pick your real target, and get sustained hits and still the +1 AP against it. There's some cute tricks here. The Brigand is great. I think it's the best War Dog bar none. I have not really written a Chaos Knight list that isn't taking 5 or 6 of them, and after playing around with them, I've leaned from 5 into 6. I think the Brigand is just the absolute workhorse of Chaos Knights. It brings great shooting. It's still a vehicle. It's still relatively durable. It's not that expensive. And it lets you credibly threaten to kill things in shooting, which nothing else in Chaos Knights can really do. You don't shoot as hard as Imperial Knights, but the Brigand does.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. They're just scary. Like, 1 shooting you is fine. 2 shooting you, not great. 4 shooting you kills the heck out of you. Like, 6 shooting you and nobody knew you existed.
Yeah. It's just great. I love the Brigand. It's my favorite war dog. It was my favorite war dog before. It is definitely my favorite war dog now. Jackie's just sitting here smiling because he knows how much I like my Chaos Knights and being polite, letting me ramble. But man, like I think the Brigand just kind of defines the playstyle of Chaos Knights right now. Similar to the truck. Could you look at it, other vehicles and say it's better? Maybe, but like the Brigand is just essential to the army. Absolutely. And for that reason, it's number 9 on the list. You ready to take us number 8, Jack?
Let's go to number 8. We've got the Mutalith Vortex Beast. This guy is
That's what the model looks like?
That's what the model looks like.
Never even know.
I don't know why we are putting mythical animals on this list. I have never, I think they're a myth.
Yeah, number 7 is Sasquatch.
Yeah, exactly. Mutaliths in the wild, God, they've been out of stock forever and ever. I think I managed to get a second one through the magic of Warp Fire.
Warp Fire's pretty clutch.
Warp Fire provides. But they are almost impossible to find. I don't know why GW hasn't printed them in a while, but they just haven't. Or cast them, whatever, made them. They're just impossible to find, so have fun with that. But it's worth
if you find one.
If you find one, are very good. This thing is insanely durable for its cost. It's 145 for no reason. It is toughness 10, I want to say. I think it's toughness 10. Toughness 10 with 13 wounds, a 4-up armor, 5-up invuln, and a 5-up feel no pain, which is Very durable.
Yeah, that Feel No Pain really takes that data sheet from 0 to hero at the last minute.
With the invuln as well.
Absolutely.
Because then you get 2 chances to just scam people on dice. You're like, oh look, I rolled a little too many 5-ups. Was that on my invuln? Was that on my Feel No Pain? It just happens, right? You roll the dice, you're like, 4 saves, I pass 2, they go through, and that's like 8 damage or something, and then you pass a couple more Feel No Pains, and suddenly it's like you blanked 3 out of 4 shots. It's just really annoying having to get through those 2 gates of the 5-up for your opponent. And that's what I'm here for. So it's ludicrously tanky for no reason, for its points cost. Its ranged weapons are one of 3 choices. You either get 2d6 at strength 6, AP 1, damage 1, torrent that auto hits, and that's at 12 inches, or you get a d6 plus 3 shot at 9 minus 2, damage 2 with blast.
It's a good gun.
It's a very good gun. Or you get the funniest gun, which I haven't high rolled on yet, but I'm planning to in the future. 1 shot, also at 24 inches, at strength 18 minus 4, damage d6 plus 6, with devastating wounds. I've never fired it and gotten the devastating wounds, but
one day.
One day
you'll live the Valiant meme.
That's because I'm too cowardly. I fire the blast profile, the d6 plus 3 at 922.
It's just sad.
It's sad. All 3 of those are really good guns. Mm-hmm. They're all really good. They're all very worthwhile into different targets. So you have a decent shooting platform. You also have a decent combat platform. It's 5 attacks in combat at strength 9, AP 2, damage 4.
That's a very weird 9-2-4.
Yes.
It's like not good into tanks until it is. It's not
like
good into the infantry until it is.
It's pretty decent into trucks, I guess.
But yeah, this thing is a truck killer.
Truck murderer. It's fine. Its melee is like, you don't want to get hit by this, but it's not going to like kill a unit by itself. Or, I mean, it could with 15 attacks at strength 701. Mm-hmm. Could hurt like a 10-man of something pretty badly. Also, it has a bunch of abilities. So it explodes for d6, which is very annoying.
It's very funny.
Very
I love
funny.
that fact.
End of your movement phase, you roll a die for every unit within 6 inches. On a 2 through a 3, they take a mortal wound. On a 4 through a 5, they take d3. And a 6, they take d6. And then they take a battle shock test.
Okay.
So battle shocks your opponent and does random mortals at the end of every one of your movement phases.
Pretty solid.
Yeah. And then also, it doubles... I mean, there's so many rules on this thing.
There's so many rules.
It also doubles the range of all Kabbalistic rituals within 6 inches.
That, honestly, is the part that makes me the most mad. Honestly. Like, it's that it's all these things. It is thick. It does more damage than I want for relatively cheap. Splashes mortals. I hate that, like, they have this, like, concept of, like, oh, every, like, monster vehicle gets a special rule, and then sometimes they just bolt 5 Feel No Pain on top. Like, I feel like that should have counted. That should have been your rule. But no, they're like, well, we have to, like, print something, so let's also give it random mortals. I don't know, this thing's weird. Let's give it a second rule. Let's also make it insanely valuable for the really good army that it's bolted onto.
Yeah, the Mutalith is great.
Yeah.
It just powers up the army because doubling the range of your rituals really helps you out there. And it also is something very tanky that can go forward and skirmish, take objectives. Mm-hmm. Love it. If you have an opportunity to get your hands on one of these, I would go for it because they are impossible to find and they are very, very good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
talking about things that are just too durable and too good, we have...
We also have a super chat.
We do have a super chat. Sorry, my bad. Ergen Claw, $5 super chat. Hi guys, I think the list is wrong. I believe it goes Seraptic, 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 Seraptic.
That's a lot of heavy constructs.
That's a lot of heavy constructs. Those things shoot so hard.
You know what, Ergo Claw? I think just for you, I think we're gonna sneak some Necron love in here. I think they've earned it. You ready?
That's right. Up next is the Transcendent Catan. Yep. The Transcendent Catan recently got a bit of a rules change. It was the only thing in the book that did not have reanimation protocols, and it seemed pretty obvious that was just a typo. The other Catan had reanimation protocols. Everything else in the army had reanimation protocols. It was not a balancing factor. It was clearly just a mistake, and they got it back. But what you get now is a unit that is incredibly durable for points and very mobile.
Annoying.
Yeah.
I also, like, look at the size of that base.
It's teensy-weensy.
The same size base as a gargoyle.
It's so small.
Just want you to know that.
How are you supposed to fight this thing in 2 ranks?
Yeah. I got nothing, man.
Yep. So what we've got is toughness 11 with a 4-up invuln, 4-up armor, 12 wounds. That's not so bad. I mean, it's got a 4-up invuln.
4-up armor?
4-up armor. So
that's good. This thing's like not nearly as durable as the Incarn. That thing's a 2-up in armor and hard to deal with.
Yes. Well, the Incarn made our character list, so it's not on the monsters list. But it's fairly expensive. It's $280 for that profile. That's not so bad.
It's not so bad.
That's not it halves damage.
Okay.
Yeah, it halves damage. And you can give it an enhancement because it's technically a character.
Boy, it sure is both a monster and a character.
So you can give it Sempiternal Weave for 10 points.
You can't give the Nightbringer or the Deceiver enhancements.
They're epic heroes. This thing isn't.
But
I hear what you're saying. There's no legal reason I cannot do this. Or someone can. I did not.
Please don't.
They will not listen to you, John. They will do it anyway.
It's alright. At least the Sempiternal Weave raises the points cost on this bad boy a lot.
By 10. So it goes up to 290. For that, all told, you get toughness 11, 12 wounds with a 4-up armor, 4-up invuln, and half damage and a 4-up feel no pain.
Half damage 4-up feel no pain is the point where you realize that every 4 damage swing that connects from the Mutilith Vortex Beast expects to put 1 damage through.
I don't want to know how long it would take. I don't think a Mutilith Vortex Beast on average ever kills a Transcendent Catan.
I think it does more than D3 damage between 2 fight phases.
You think so? Wounds on 5s, you get a 4-up, it halves the damage and a 4-up feel no pain.
It's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a while.
I wonder how many Vortex Beasts it would take to go positive on this thing.
I think 2 would go positive over 7 turns.
I highly doubt that. But
all right.
This is definitely numbers I'm going to crunch after the stream.
Yeah. So this thing is insanely tough. For 290 points, this might be like the hardest to kill 290 points. High toughness means you want to put anti-tank into it. That's a lot of damage. Spike you with a 4-up invuln. Okay.
Then half the damage. Then hit you with another 4-up feel no pain. You're having damage at multiple steps.
It heals, so trying to chip it is very annoying. And while it's in the core of the army, which won't be always, but let's talk about it like it is right now, it could heal 2d3 in the command phase because of the Reanimator, and it could heal d3 because of Technomancer. So it's very conceivable that if you see one of these in a Necron army, just like in the army, and you shoot it, that it would heal 6 wounds in the Necron player's turn. Which is the same as healing 24 damage, because that's what it takes to put 6 wounds on it.
Yep, because you half the damage, and you 4 feel no pain, which halves the damage again.
So just hit it with damage 1 or mortals.
If it's off by itself, it only heals D3. Mm-hmm. And D3 is only, 2 on average is only 8 damage. That's easy. That's fine. Yeah. It's killable if it's off by itself, or if you can get it in a single round, which, I don't know what that looks like.
But is it?
It's not really killable.
It's not really that
killable. It's not that killable. Also, that's not even to mention the fact that it's very mobile.
Yes. Yeah, we should talk about the other rules that it gets, because it is not just half damage.
Yep. If it advances, you can pick it up and put it down 9 away from enemies instead of advancing.
Just immediately.
So you see that card behind enemy lines? Go get it, champ. It's yours. Yep. You need cleanse on an objective. Boom. It's there.
Woof.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And it's not nothing in combat and shooting, right? It's 6 shots at sustained hits 1 with assault, so it can teleport and shoot. Mm-hmm. At hitting on 2s, 8 minus 2 damage D3.
That's the shooting?
That's the shooting.
Dang.
Yeah, it doesn't...
That is better than I thought it was going to be.
And then the melee weapon is 8 attacks at sustained hits 1 at strength 9 AP 3 damage D6.
That's not a crazy profile in 10th edition, but it still isn't something anyone wants to casually take.
8 attacks.
No one wants to just sit there for that. No one wants to just be in the park, just be like, yep, don't even worry about it, buddy. Just go ahead and hit me a couple times. No one's excited about getting those swings on him.
No. And you're not dealing with him. You're stuck there.
Yeah, if you're not killing him, You can tie this guy up, but because he's a monster, he can still shoot while he's in combat.
Yep. So he can still shoot you or do
Or do
an action while he's in combat.
Which means that this guy is just great at scoring points, something that Necrons generally like to do.
Yes.
Much like everyone else. Yeah, this guy's phenomenal. Really annoying.
Yep.
It's on the list for a reason.
I'm sure it's a ton of fun to play with. I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, it does seem like the kind of thing you'd like.
Oh, you can't kill me.
That's the Jack Harpsy special. All right, let's get something on here for Mr. Nick Notabody.
A little Forge Friend action.
A little Forge Friend action. All right, so the Forge Fiend is this silly Dinobot that came out in 6th edition has been waiting to be like great for a while. It's been takeable a couple times. It's been bad a couple times.
It's been bad far more often than it's been takeable.
I don't think it has been as good as it is right now since it released. No. So if you bought a Forge Fiend when it came out and you built it with triple ectoplasm cannons...
One hopes that you did. If you built it with the Hades autocannons, first off, that was never the right choice. And second, I'm sorry.
But like right now, though, this thing's kind of gnarly. So let's talk about what it does, right?
So the main thing it does is it shoots. Yeah. And it shoots hard. Each of those ectoplasma cannons, of which you can decide you want a third one in place of its melee weapon, sure, is D3 shots blast. And because it's not 3D3 shots plus blast, it's 3 D3 shots plus blast, it gets triple value out of blast.
Absolutely. So every time this thing shoots at 5 Space Marines, it adds 3 shots, not 1. When it shoots at 20 Neophytes, it doesn't add 4 shots, it adds 12. So this thing scales very well when shooting at infantry. This is one of the best vehicles at murdering all types of infantry in the game.
Yep. Slaughters hordes, slaughters elite infantry, doesn't matter.
Still good into vehicles. Like, it's not bad at shooting vehicles.
No, it certainly isn't. And there's many buffs you can give it as part of the army. First off, if CSM has pacts, and this thing can decide to pact. And if it pacts, it can take either sustained or lethal hits. You're almost always taking sustained. If it's Nurgle, it gets sustained on 5s, which is a lot of shots.
So normally, no buffs at all. Ignoring everything else. I don't know CSM rules. It's just ballistic skill 3. So you're going to hit 2 out of 3. Now, if you make it sustained hits 5, if you roll like 6 shots, you're going to roll 2 5s and 2 misses. And the 2 5s will just be 4 hits. So it goes from like 6 shots, 4 hits to 6 shots, 6 hits, just like on average. No rerolls factored in.
Which, don't worry, you can get rerolls.
Yeah, if you found a way in CSM to have someone give you reroll hits, Abaddon. If anyone were to give you reroll hits, you would get a lot better Abaddon.
Abaddon?
Yep.
But that's okay. Nobody's taking Abaddon, right?
It's right. No one's taking that old man Abby. So yeah, so that means that if you have 6 shots with sustained hits on a 5+, you're standing near Abaddon, you're expecting to get like 8 hits. And that can spike fairly easily.
Yes. Yeah, so that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
There's a couple other things. One, if it's Chaos Undivided, it is one of the best outputs for Profane Zeal for reroll hits and wounds.
Oh, reroll wounds? Well, we haven't even talked about what the profile on this thing is.
Yeah,
I feel like we've got to mention what an ectoplasm cannon does.
An ectoplasma cannon does whatever it feels like. It is D3 shots blast each at strength 10, AP 3, damage 3.
Any rules?
It does actually have some rules. When it pacts, its ranged weapons get... there's every time it's selected to shoot, you can give its ranged weapons devastating wounds and hazardous. So
devastating wounds is...
Yeah, it's almost as though this thing mulches hordes because you're just like, all right, take 12 saves, on a 20-man unit. Take like 12 saves and 9 mortals. And you're like, oh, you're gone. Bye.
Yeah, suddenly...
That's if you roll low.
Hordes. AP 3, good anti-tank weapon. Not great, but like good. Devastating wounds. That's real good. When you reroll your wounds, that's real good. These things are definitely at their best as Undivided or as Nurgle, so that you can either have full rerolls independent from Abaddon, or just some rerolls independent from Abaddon, or you could be next to Abaddon, not spend the CP, still reroll 1s to wound, and then if you're Nurgle and you're standing next to Abaddon, just vomit hits on people.
Yeah.
Just so many hits.
So there's a question about when you reroll all hits versus rerolling some hits. If you have a 3-up with sustained hits, it is mathematically identical whether you reroll 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, or whether you just reroll 1s and 2s.
Yep, that's if you have sustained hits 5.
5.
If you have sustained hits 6, keep your hits, savor them, cherish them like your children, and then roll them.
Yes. This thing just mulches basically everything it looks at that gives it even a single pip of blast.
Yeah, this is a 3d3 shot weapon, and if you just look at that in a vacuum, average 6 shots, average 4 hits. If you shoot a 5-man Space Marine squad, Nurgle standing next to Abaddon, 6 shots, it's actually 9 shots. You're gonna expect, I think, 12 hits?
Something like that.
I think this thing gets about 12 hits if it just shoots at 5 dudes.
Yeah, if you take 9 shots, I think you get 12 hits. So
What?
Yep.
Like, what? What?
Forget going into like a 10-man squad of like something durable, right? Like a 10-man squad of Terminators or something. This thing is just like drooling.
Yeah. Basically, the Forge Fiend stacks buffs better than any vehicle I think I've seen. Like, just what its base profile does to what it practically does when you activate it.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a bigger difference.
And just the fact you can give it dev wounds means it's good into every single target. This thing comes out and delivers damage. It doesn't pretend to do a single other thing.
It's not good in combat.
It's not good in combat. It doesn't move especially quickly. It moves 8 inches, which is fine. It is okay on the durability spectrum. Yeah. What it does is when it gets line of sight to you, it no longer has line of sight to you because you're dead.
Yeah. You just cannot take sustained hits over and over, from a Forge Fiend. Or multiple. And you know what? This is another unit that is very good to take multiples of.
Yes, because either they can't afford to get hit by any Forge Fiends, and so now you have multiple areas that they can't go in, or they can afford to get hit by one Forge Fiend, and then you hit them with more than one Forge Fiend, and they go to sleep.
Yeah, there are very few things that can credibly look at multiple Forge Fiends and just like, I got this. You really don't.
It does hurt itself quite quickly, because it has a Dark Pact for D3, and if you overcharge the guns, they are also hazardous. Mm-hmm. So you're rolling 3 dice, every one is 3 mortals, and you're taking a leadership check, or you take D3.
Devastating Wounds is really good. And I like having access to it. But you don't have to have it every time.
You don't have to have it every time.
Like if I'm just shooting 5 Space Marines, I'll pact, no overcharge, we're going to kill the Space Marines. Don't even need to worry about it.
But also, it takes 4 failed hazardous checks to kill the thing. So that means you have to activate it 24... you need to shoot 24 shots, which means you need to activate it 8 times.
It'll be fine.
It'll be alright. It'll be okay. It'll end the game at like 3, and your opponent will just be smoking craters.
Yeah, this thing does damage. All right, so we're out of the top 6. We're into the top 5. 5 choices left. Everything left here is pretty dang good. One of these, the next one, as a matter of fact, I believe didn't quite make it onto the named characters list.
Yep, we clean forgot Canis Rex off the characters list. Our bad. He would have made it.
That's how you know I wasn't on that list.
I
would have ranked Canis Rex. Because Canis Rex, people. Is this the one where I get to go on the spiel?
It is?
Oh, Canis Rex, what a guy. So Canis Rex is the named character knight. He went up more points than all the other knights. He was an auto-take in the old points cost, but then he went up more than other knights. And I'm here to tell you, he's still an auto-take. Canis Rex is phenomenal. So Canis Rex doesn't make the knight army better. He doesn't tell his friends to shoot harder. He doesn't tell them to be -1 damage. What he does is he tells his friends, don't worry, boys, I got this, and then goes on a one-man wrecking crew rampage through the opponent's army, because Canis wrecks people. Canis is a Questoris Knight. He's got the normal profile, but what he does instead is he just hits insanely harder, and he gets a free strat every player turn. Knight stratagems are good. Not much to sugarcoat here. Knights really like CP rerolls. Canis Rex likes getting another rotate on top of whoever else did it. He likes getting the 2 CP strats for free, like Shoulder and Mantle. Canis Rex just likes doing all that. He's also Ballistic Skill Weapon Skill 2. Most knights hit on 3s, might reroll a 1 to hit. That's kind of the extent of what most knights do. Canis always hits on 2s with all of his things. So that reroll 1 is even better now. Now, Canis Rex also has sustained hits on all of his weapons. It's just like, he doesn't have a multi-laser, he has a Chainbreaker multi-laser, and he has a Chainbreaker Las Impulsor. And Freedom's Hand, he doesn't have a Power Fist. So he just has a sustained hits hitting on 2's version. But Canis Rex, glorious Chad that he is, also gets critical hits on 5s, not on 6s. Which means that if you take just like a 4-shot gun, a multi-laser, and you slap that on a Perceptor, you're looking at getting like, I don't know, you hit on 3s, you reroll 1, you're fairly likely to get 3 hits with that. Now, let's take that same multi-laser, except it's a Chainbreaker multi-laser on Canis Rex. 4 shots hitting on 2s, exploding 5s, rerolling 1s. You're fairly likely to get 6 hits.
It's very good.
It's like almost double the amount of hits to what the other equivalent of this weapon would be, because you're +1 to hit, and you get sustained hits, and they're on 5s.
That's pretty solid.
It's not quite double. I think it's about like Canis gets something like 170% hit rate, give or take. Very quick math in my head. Like compared to expected value of the same weapon on a ballistic skill 3, weapon skill 3 knight. So when you get that las impulsor, that d6 shots feels a little unreliable until you roll a 3 and look at that and be like, well, this is almost certainly going to be at least 4 hits. That's good enough. Yeah. Whereas like that's the same as rolling like a 6 on a normal night.
Yeah, which is like best possible.
Best possible.
And if you get a 6 on Canis, it hurts.
Then you get like 8.
Yeah.
Watching Canis punch people is euphoric. Canis Rex
he also goes in and free tank shocks them.
Oh, well, of course, yeah, he has a free stratagem, so you might as well toss that 6 mortal wounds on the charge, because he's strength like 20 or something similar. Let's make that 22. Probably get 6 mortals out of that. His combat, it's funny enough, because of that hitting on 2 sustained hits, it's the point where I'm actually comfortable using the big punches. Because if I'm going in with 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, reroll a 1, exploding 5s, I look at that and I'm like, alright, 5 attacks, I probably get like 7 hits. Wound on 2s, reroll 1, decent odds I get 6 or 7 wounds. Alright. Tank. 36 damage. Call it a day.
Yeah.
Oh, Aberrance? Doesn't feel no pain, doesn't even matter. 9 damage a dude. Let me just like dribble off their heads real quick. Canis Rex just hits on a level that other knights don't. Also, one of my favorite things about Canis Rex is that he does not require bondsman abilities to even pretend to operate. Some of the knights are really good. They didn't make the list, but some knights like the Crusader or the Cascadator are very good, but they're better when they're next to their friends. Canis Rex doesn't care. He likes friends. He has friends. But you know what? Canis Rex is also a bit of a loner. He's a lone wolf. And he will just go in reserves, Rapid Ingress in, 9 inches away from the opponent, and say, hey, death is coming. Your turn. What are you going to do? Makes sense. My favorite part about Canis Rex is also the stupidest part, though, because we're almost done with the rant. Jack is falling asleep over here, but I will never stop. When you kill Canis Rex, Sir Hector gets out. And you have to roll for him to disembark, so he might take a mortal on my 3 or 4 wound lone op, whatever. But there's the funny part, is that Canis Rex doesn't count as dead until you hunt down lone op Sir Hector. Which means he doesn't give up Bring It Down or Assassinate until you go hunt down Sir Hector. And the number of times I've had someone take Bring It Down, try to add 5 to the score sheet, and I'm like, excuse me, sir, Sir Hector is still alive on that objective. And they're like, oh, let me just shoot him. I'm so sorry, he's a lone operative. He's just a jerk.
It also lets you hold objectives really well.
Really well.
Just as a final middle finger from Canis Rex.
Just one more.
Just one little middle finger straight in the sky of just, no, this objective's mine, and you didn't get your points.
Yeah. Canis Rex is great. I fully expect I'll be taking him in just about every knight's list I play in the next year.
Yeah, you get giddy when you put him on the board.
I do. He's so much fun, and he hits so much harder than a knight. And the main problem with big knights is that they hit hard but aren't reliable. Canis Rex hits hard and is reliable, and I will pay points for that.
All right,
that's my Canis Rex rant.
It's a pretty good rant.
It's a good rant. Canis Rex deserves this spot. We've got 2 people, though, who have just become members of the Worm, and it's too far away for me to read.
All right, we got Shackleton Mangrum, who has not just become a member. He's a member for 14 months, War Room Bronze. Been having a rough stretch with my Tyranids, using 2 levy boxes as a base for a list. What would you recommend for a 2,000-point list?
Shackleton Mangrum, I think you need to upgrade into some plastic monsters. I think that if you play Tyranids, you probably have looked at the monster section of that book and maybe longingly wanted to have 2 Tyrannifex, some Carnifex, some Maliceptors, some Exocrines on the table. I think that the Levy box does give you a lot of Gribblies, but it doesn't give you a lot of big things. And I think that if you're not having a lot of success or not maybe enjoying as much all the little gribblies in the box, I would say it's time to get yourself some monsters.
Exocrines, Maliceptors, Trigons.
Trigon's pretty good.
Yeah.
Hive Tyrant,
real good. Also Biovores.
Oh yeah, always Biovores. But also like buying Biovores, wouldn't recommend it right now because we've got new model coming in like the next several months whenever GW gets around to it.
Yeah.
So don't buy Biovores at full price.
Don't buy Biovores.
Don't buy those. Don't buy them. But we've got some good stuff coming for Tyranid, so hold on to your hat. Norn Emissary soon. Monsters forever. Crusher Stampede back. Come on.
All right, Tim G, member for 12 months at the War Room Gold. Why so few knights at the team tournament? Easy to counter against in team format, or just not as viable as other options?
So I think the big thing is that knights are a very binary army. And most armies could choose to build against knights if they wanted to, but doing so leaves them a little bit vulnerable. And one of the main, parts of knights is, part of their identity is saying, sometimes you can't kill me because you didn't bring enough anti-tank. And if you brought some anti-tank, I'll kill it before I've lost all the knights. And I'll engineer a board state where you've killed half my army in the first half of the game, but I've killed all your anti-tank. And then the second half of the game gets a lot worse for you. And in a team format, the team can look at their armies and say, hey, who brought the most las cannons? And the orc player who's sitting there like, I have 3 trucks and a choppa, they're not playing the knights. But the Eldar player with 6 fire prisms, the Avatar of Cain, 2 Wraith Knights, and a Warwalker, that one is like, I'll play against the knights. And that's a real problem for knights.
They have 12 Warwalkers, 17 D cannons, 39 Hornets.
I don't know, 2 Vizarks, that was the weird part. Just lasers and light lances just out the butt. You don't want that as a knight player. So I think knights are still very good in singles, but I think they're better in singles than teams because in teams there's less pressure on each player to bring a well-balanced list, which means it's more likely the knight player goes into an unbalanced list in the wrong direction. But if you ever get a knight list into an unbalanced list in the right direction, big points differential for the team. High risk, high reward. It's kind of up to the team on how they want to approach their comp.
Yep, and how they want to engineer a scenario where they can come out on top. All right. We're into the real strong.
Yeah, we are on to vehicles that make John mad.
Yes. All right. The War Walker.
I think this thing does not get enough credit.
It's insane. It is better than the Fire Prism. It's better than the Hornet. It's better than the Viper. They're all various flavors of the same thing, and the Warwalker is just the best in my mind.
Yeah.
It is the most durable for no reason at all. It's only toughness 7 with 6 wounds. Very easy to kill.
Very fragile, yes.
Very fragile. Yeah, it's -1 to wound in shooting for some reason, not if your strength's higher than their toughness or anything like that. It's just -1. So if you're firing strength 6 at it, guess what? You're wounding on 6s. Have fun with that. But also it means that good anti-tank shots more than likely are wounding it on 4s, which is like it's toughness 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if a las cannon or something shoots at this, you're wounding it as though you're wounding a big knight, which is kind of pointless. Like why is this tiny little thing somehow more durable than a gladiator, right? I don't get it. But then on top of that, it also is a 4-up invuln, so it can just bounce your saves on that as well.
And the 4-up invuln is including melee.
Oh, yeah.
It's -1 to wounded shooting, which makes it a huge pain, because obviously with Fate Dice, this is a great outlet for 4s, right?
Yep. Your opponent either needs to hilariously overcommit to your cheap tank, at which point you're like, well, I won't spend any Fate Dice on that. Or they fire some las cannons at it and do 0 damage because you're like, all right, I'm at 3 and I have 1 save left to make. I make it. Sweet. And you wound them on 4s, and it takes forever to kill these things.
Yeah. And they pack 2 heavy weapons of theoretically any kind of Bright Lance.
They pack twin anything as long as it's a Bright Lance.
Oh, no, it's not twin.
Sorry.
Not twin. You might think that because it is always reroll and a wound roll.
Oh, yeah. No. They just pack 2 Bright Lances that are not twin. Not twin. So you get 2 shots, and they reroll a hit, reroll a wound, so they're efficient anti-tank platforms that are very durable and very cheap, and also fairly decently mobile. This thing moves 10 inches and scouts 9.
Yeah. So when we got to the Mutilate the Vortex Beast, I complained that sometimes GW, like, gives a unit a special rule, because every unit has a special rule with, like, some text. But then some units, they just add a couple more rules on. Like, a Fort Benvolm isn't checking a box on, like, the rules quota, but it feels like an extra rule. And it has Scout.
Scout 9.
Scout 9.
Which is very fast.
It really helps play the mission. Doesn't die to other skirmishing units, because my infiltrators are wounding this thing on 6s, and it gets a good save, and it's like, oh.
Yep, it has a 3-up armor.
Yeah.
So if it's in cover, it gets a 2-up. And you're wounding it on 6s.
Yep.
And...
Yeah, a 2-up practical against something with AP.
Yeah.
But it's just really, really good. I feel like we don't see enough of these. I've seen a lot of lists that are, for Eldar, replacing Warwalkers with, like, Hornets and Vipers, because there's like multiple different, here's a small, cheap Eldar vehicle that packs Bright Lances and has a bunch of rerolls and provides some kind of value to the army. There's several of those. But I feel like the Warwalker is the best of those.
Yep. On my Eldar list, if I were to play Eldar, would start with 3 Warwalkers. Just start with 3.
Yeah, they're a little not cheap, but then you look at what they do and you say, you know what, this shouldn't have been cheap in the first place. So
let's just do it. Would spend 95 points for these.
I would spend.
I'd spend substantially north of that, actually.
Spend 285 points for 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 95 points is criminally cheap for what it does. It's priced like it's fragile. It's not. It's priced like it doesn't do a lot of damage. It does.
It's valuable for the mission.
It's valuable for the mission. It's disposable, good screens.
Obviously has great strat access and synergizes extremely well with all of the army rules.
Yep. So, yeah.
So that's
also,
the Walker.
Also, it's 8 damage when shooting, because the first Bright Lance to go through is 6.
God, I hate that moment when an Eldar player, like, gets you to fail a save and they just, like, ask, hey, how many wounds is that, as their hand, like, strays towards the pile? I was like, oh, no. I'm like, my shield captain is 6 wounds and -1 damage. And they're like, so a 5 kills him?
And
there we go. Here it is. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's only once per phase they can make the damage 8.
Don't fail a save.
You fail 1 save, they're like, oh, you're at 7 wounds left. No dice required.
All right. So, that's the Warwalker. I think we're done talking about other vehicles for this tier list. Let's move on. What?
Are we?
Yeah, obviously.
Oh, okay.
Obviously. Let's move on to the next one.
We'll get back. It'd be crazy if there were...
Let's get some variety in the top.
Any amount more.
Let's get into the variety of the top here.
Yeah, let's mix it up. Let's go for the Achilles Ridge Runner. Ooh. I know it has a mining laser there, but that is... Whew, is that not what the people take?
Funny enough, though, I've seen the mining lasers a lot.
They're not bad.
They're not bad.
They're not bad.
So let's talk about a Ridge Runner. So a Ridge Runner is another not that expensive, relatively cheap vehicle that has a scout move, synergizes well with the army. Cheap vehicles that synergize with the army are going to be good here. Scout move doesn't mean much because it's hiding, because it can have a mortar, but its main thing is that whatever it targets, usually it makes the army better against. The Ridge Runner itself is not great at damage.
Nope. Kind of bad at it, although...
But it buffs the army really well.
Not a lot. There are some armies that don't just want to take, 3 heavy mortars, d6 plus 3 at 601 to the face every turn. Mm-hmm. There are some armies where that'll just kill your skirmish trash.
Yeah.
Right off.
Funny enough, it's actually like a decent profile into Eldar. Yeah. Especially multiple of these.
Decent profile into Eldar. It's great into, Kroot Hounds or things of that nature.
Yeah. So what was the shot count on that mortar?
D6 plus 3 blast. Okay,
so minimum 4, often more. Sometimes minimum 5 into like a 5-man unit. It's ballistic skill 4. It's not heavy. It's indirect. So it actually takes a credible indirect penalty. Who'd thunk it? But what it does is that it not only has a special rule, but then it has a bunch of war gear options that are actually like special rules in a trench coat.
Yes.
So the special rule is that after it rolls its shots, pick something it hit. Your army is +1 AP against it. That is a very good rule, especially for an army like Genestealer Cult that does not pack a lot of high AP weapons inherently.
Inherently is doing so much work in that sentence.
Yep, there's not a lot of high AP. Anyways, here's AP 4 damage to ignore cover.
Yeah, so we've speculated before that, especially in our top 10 characters video, that, GSC's whole thing is that they come back to life constantly. They score the mission well. They have a lot of mobility, and that their deep strikes, are really annoying to deal with. And they come back to life. But to compensate for that, they were not supposed to do a lot of damage.
I get that, yeah. Their profiles don't look like they do a lot of damage.
No, they hit on 5s and 4s. 5s with their, like, actually good weapon, 4s with their actually bad weapons.
Yeah, I get it.
And yet, GSC are the kings of rule stacking.
Yeah, wow.
They have one stratagem that's +1 to wound, +1 AP for 2 battle line units. Which is all of their damage dealers are battle line. So they get +1 to wound and +1 AP, and suddenly they're looking at AP1 and AP2. When they come from reserves, they get sustained hits, and they get ignores cover. Anything the Ridge Runner shoots is another pip of AP as well, and also potentially ignores cover off the Survey Augur.
Yeah. The warrior options are pretty good here, too.
They're real good. So when you shoot at the unit, you've got your unit, and you got a Primus in there that rerolls your hits. So your unit that should hit on 5s and still do decent damage because their shot count is very high. Mm-hmm. It should do decent damage. Instead, what happens is you annihilate anything you shoot at. D6 +3 shots blast off the grenades, or I think 6 shots off of the seismic cannons. Plus 2 AP, +1 to wound, +1 to hit, sustained hits, ignores cover, full rerolls to hit,
reroll 1s to wound.
Reroll 1s to wound.
With your strength 12 +1 to wound. Come on.
And they just destroy anything that they look at. That army goes from hitting like a wet noodle to killing anything it wants.
Yeah. I love Ridge Runners. They are one of my favorite vehicles in the game. I own 9 of them, which is more than you can legally take because of how much I love Ridge Runners. But boy howdy have they gotten a glow up. They are no longer the cute anti-meta, what does this list do thing that they were when I bought and painted 9 of them. But you know what? I love them for that. They've earned their spot in the sun. Yeah. The fact that they can apply all those buffs with indirect is a big part of their utility. You can take mining lasers or missiles. Those are not bad weapons. But the main thing is that you get to use the mortar to preserve your relatively cheap, relatively fragile tank while still applying buffs downfield. And that is a huge boon for the Ridge Runner.
Yes. Yeah, if this thing weren't indirect, it would merely be good. As it is, it's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We do have some chatter in the chat before we move on to the number 2 slot, with people taking some guesses. First up, take some guesses as what you think is left. But a caveat that we're going to put here is that other than Canis Rex, we aren't putting any named characters in this list.
Yep, Canis Rex was forgotten on the top 10 epic heroes. Bad.
He did not deserve that.
He did not deserve that.
He's coming in here. But other than that, there are no named characters remaining on this list. We try to give them their service in the named characters list.
Absolutely.
So, number 2.
Number 2.
Who do you think's more excited about this, Jack? Me or you?
The Night Spinner! Hey! Oh, God.
Needs more spins.
It needs to spin harder. Yeah, the Night Spinner is the best the best indirect unit.
Yeah, that might be true.
Yeah, the best indirect...
Easily top 2. Definitely best in the vehicle list. Probably best overall.
Yeah, the only comparison would be Desolators, and this is better than Desolators in my opinion, but it's
I hate
close.
it, but it is.
It is. The Night Spinner is not a vehicle that is incredibly impressive on its face, but it is brutal, to play against, especially in multiples. I think the Night Spinner, it's the second best tank / monster in the game, and I think it just fits. It doesn't have Bright Lances, it doesn't have a Prism Cannon, right? All the other Eldar vehicles are 2 shots that are very, very good, and you reroll a hit and reroll a wound. This thing does something completely different. This gives Eldar indirect power on another level.
Yeah, mainly because Eldar are an army that puts direct fire to shame. And getting into a direct fire shooting contest with Eldar is so difficult because of the existence of Fire and Fade and Phantasm. The fact that they have 2 different, move abilities in between their shooting phase and your shooting phase means they're very hard to get into a direct fire war with. naturally, whenever these kind of armies come out, they are most vulnerable to armies that do not try to do that and instead hide behind walls and score points. So what do? You need to find a way to shoot this person behind a wall. Ideally, before they run into close combat with you. Even better if you can kill them before they do that. Night Spinners.
Night Spinners! They're also... Their gun has a ridiculous amount of rules.
Yeah, again, they have a rule with text. Like, every unit has at least one. But I think they only have one, unlike the Fire Prism. But then their gun, you read the profile, and you're like, oh, that's good. I wonder what special rules it has. I bet it has, oh my god, it has all of them.
Yeah, it's 48-inch range, so there's no getting out of range of it.
Yep.
D6 plus 3 shots blast, so it's a lot of shots.
Good.
Yep. Indirect fire, so there's no getting away from it with line of sight.
Okay, solid.
Devastating wounds.
3 rules. You do not see many weapons with 3 rules.
Twin-linked.
Oh!
Yeah, if this thing weren't twin-linked, that's a whole nother thing. But what every single Eldar player does, they just reroll everything except the 6s on the wound roll, and they just spike mortals at you. It's strength 7, AP 0, damage 2. But what it does is it just rains mortals at you. You can no longer get cover to get a 2-up, which means against Marines, they're taking 3-ups, but they gotta take a lot of 3-ups. And then at the end of it, you're like, 4 to 6 mortals. Bzzzt. So take like 4 saves, 4 to 6 mortals. And they're like, I failed 1. All right, 4 dead.
Yep, this happens so many dang times. The Night Spinner, its actual shooting around point. Again, Dev Wounds twin linked needs to not exist, in my opinion.
Especially,
and if it happens on a damage 1 profile, I can be a little mad about it. Damage 2. It's too much.
You're taking real damage from... I played against a list that had 3 of these. 2 of them fired because one of them was, thank God, doing an action, and 2 of them dropped 16 mortal wounds on me out of line of sight. Not a thing I could have done about it.
Yep.
My opponent had guide for 2 of them, so he just guided both, shot me out of line of sight, rerolled hits, rerolled wounds, and was just like, that's 8 6s right there.
It's comical.
And then I failed 2 saves because he also handed me like 9 of them.
Comical.
Yeah, just ripped through me. It was ridiculous. And you can take multiples, and they hit harder than you can take for multiple turns. But they also synergize with the army very well because they can summon the Incarn wherever the hell you feel like it.
Yeah, they pair very well with the Incarn, who is, I believe, in our top 10 Epicurus list.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure she was in the top half.
Big time. I think she was number 2 or something.
Yeah, so if you kill an enemy unit, then the Incarn could just be there. And then she could charge things and shoot things. And so if you just do that, have the Incarn go in and into an army, into their backfield, you can cause major havoc. And Night Spinners with Indirect are the best thing at killing a cheap unit that isn't going to survive Night Spinners.
Yeah, it gets to the point where you can't put your cheap units on the board against Eldar because they will use them, they'll kill them and use them for movement.
Yeah.
It's brutal. Yeah, the fastball special is what I call the play with the Incarn, where one of your units picks up your Incarn and throws it straight into the center of your opponent's army with Fortune on it. So your toughness 10, -1 to wound, just in the center of your opponent's army because you have managed to pick. There's nothing they can do. They can't hide from it.
Yeah. It's 48-inch indirect. Like, it's there.
It's there. You're getting hit by it. If your opponent has multiples, you're losing units.
Yeah. So that's the Night Spinner.
Yep.
Oh, wait.
Sorry, there's another rule.
We didn't even talk about its rule yet.
This is what was terrorizing John the whole weekend at ATC. Was he would just play into multiple Night Spinners and not get to have a single ounce of fun.
Yeah, I did play against 6 of these bad boys this weekend.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
Sure did.
Yeah.
Just 3 in a row. All right, so hey, the Night Spinner comes with a rule, because of course everyone has to have a rule. Pick something it hit. Luckily, it's reliable. It's got that free reroll. It's minimum 4 shots. Usually an Eldar player will roll all but 1 shot, and if it misses, just be like, impossible, and drop a fate dice and it still hits.
Yes.
Pick something it hit. In the shooting phase only, not Overwatch. That unit, infantry, is -2 to move, can't advance. That's it. You just, -2 move, can't advance. You can charge like normal, but no advancing. So, pick a Death Guard army. 2 inches of movement. That's it. How many Night Spinners do we have? That many units don't get to move.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is, the -2 advance, -2 move, -2 charge, or whatever, is very annoying, but in a different way.
Yeah, at least you get to advance and like physically move across the board even if you're not doing something.
Right, you roll like a 3 and you're like, all right, I go at least an extra inch when I need to. Or you roll like a 6 and you're like, all right, I get to actually go forward.
Yeah.
But this just says you can't advance in your -2 move, so you just slow to a crawl with nothing to be done about it.
Yep, and because Eldar are so adept naturally at cutting angles and outranging people, because they are a fast-flying army with a ton of different stratagems to actually move out of sequence, that means that you don't need to be -2 to charge because you don't get to declare charges. And you can't advance to get into good position or get out of line of sight.
Yeah, this is the most Eldar tank I've ever seen. Because it slows you down, it deals damage with you being unable to do a single thing about it.
It's priced like it's fragile while being impossible to hit.
Yep. Yeah,
to be clear, the Night Spinner also has gone up in points.
It has. It's 170 now, and we're pricing that in.
Yeah, we are factoring in the fact that it has gotten a 30 points price increase. If we had done this before the points nerf, it would actually be in the same position.
Yeah. This tank is insane. Its gun is good while pretending to be bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's supposed to, like, do some damage. Instead, what it does is, like, 6 mortals and some saves, don't fail them. You're like, why am I losing tanks to this thing? Why am I losing Terminators to this thing? What is going on?
Every time one of these things was like, 4 saves on your Custodian unit and 4 mortals, I'm like, oh god, this is actually going to kill a dude, maybe 2.
Yep. And
like
then
2 Night Spinners killing, like, 2 dudes, 3 dudes, happened several times to me. I was like, failed 1 save against each because they handed me, like, 8. Took some mortals, failed half of them. I'm like, that's just dudes. Just running out of dudes here.
Yep, and
also not moving.
Yep, and meanwhile, it's applying an effect to you. Like, it used to be like stratagems that would slow you down would make the gun actively bad, right? The Thunderfire would be like -1 to wound, AP 0 or something.
Yeah, the Thunderfire cannon still slows down strength 5, AP dash damage 1.
With no rules, like blast, I guess.
It's good. It's good. It's not on the list, though.
This thing with twin linked and dev wounds on top of that means it's killing you while preventing you from moving.
Criminal.
And if you rapid ingress right next to it, 9 inches away, it'll shoot you, make you move 4, you walk up to it, it runs away and shoots you again.
No charges declared during the sequence.
There's like nothing you can do about it. You just deep strike 9 away and you're physically unable to declare a charge because you walked up, it phantasmed back, and now you can't declare a charge anymore.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you're moving 4 and not advancing, and it's shooting you over and over and over again. And also, there's the rest of an Eldar army behind it.
Yeah, there always is.
There always
Funny
is.
How that works.
Speaking of things that might be in this Eldar army.
Oh, God. I thought we were done with Eldar, Jack.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, we're not. The big boy himself. He's back, baby. Oh, this thing was the terror of 7th edition.
Yeah, and...
For like a solid year and a half or something.
It was bad.
Maybe it was 6th edition.
Yeah, so the Wraith Knight has gone up like 100 points?
I think 105.
105, 95?
I think it was 370, now it's 475.
Sure.
And again, like the Night Spinner, still top on our list.
Still top of our list. Yeah, the Wraith Knight is... The funny thing is that you can take an Eldar list without a Wraith Knight, and it's not even like a bad list or something. But the Wraith Knight defines matchups in a way for a top tier army in a way that nothing else does.
Yep. This is the loadout you take, by the way. The twin heavy Wraith cannons.
Heavy Wraith cannons, that's good. So it's 2d3 shots blast. Strength, is it 18, 16? I think it's 16.
It's 2d3 shots.
Yeah, 2d3 shots blast.
Right. Strength 20.
2 blasts. Oh, 20. My bad, strength 20.
Yeah. Let me double check. AP
4.
AP 4 damage 2d6.
Devastating wounds.
Yes.
And boy howdy does having a couple of really good shots love having a free roll to hit and wound built in.
Yes.
Now you can choose to buff this any way you want. This is the point where we start putting a support cast around it. This is no longer a support piece. This gets support pieces.
Cameron is in the chat.
Good.
Cheerleading the Wraith Knight.
Absolutely.
Shamelessly, one might add.
Shamelessly.
Yeah, this thing is 2 D3 shots at very high strength, good AP, very high damage. Doesn't sound like it's that great because it is good at killing tanks unless they pass their invulns. but it's kind of bad at killing everything else, right?
Yeah.
Right? Blast.
Dev wounds.
Devastating wounds.
Now, without that
Fate
much quantity...
dice.
Oh, the fate dice.
Oh, the fate dice. Guide.
Watching Eldar players turn 1s into 6s every shooting phase to just add a little sprinkle of 2d6 mortals on top of the damage, which could have already had 2 or 4 d6 mortals in it.
Yes.
Just sprinkle little extras a treat.
You shoot at a 10-man squad, you're firing an average of 8 shots. You have guide, reroll hits. You're going to roll some 6s in there before you slap a 6 in with the fate dice, but you still will do that. Mm-hmm. And you just slam mortal wounds through whatever you're shooting at.
Yeah.
Like your enemy unit could be a 20-man warrior unit. You don't care. You're firing, an insane number of shots, firing 12 shots at them. You're going to roll like 2, 3 6s, slam another 6 in there, and they take 6 to 8 d6 mortal wounds on their unit. And saves, don't forget.
The Wraith Knight just does incredible damage very reliably all the time until you deal with it.
Into everything.
It is very difficult to deal with, not impossible. And therefore there is a little element of risk here, because if you happen to play against one of the armies that is capable of just icing a Wraith Knight, that is very big.
Yep.
If.
Also, the Overwatch on this thing is terrifying.
Yes.
So, here's the thing. In its shooting phase, it will destroy basically anything you pointed at, sometimes 2.
Yep.
It just will. And with the fate dice, although the amount of Eldar players are like, you don't get infinite fate dice. You run out of fate dice when your opponent is dead. Like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever.
You have fate dice as long as you need them.
Exactly. And you have 1 per phase as long as you need them, because the Farseer is flip a die to a 6 every turn. So you have 1 for a save, 1 for a wound roll in your phase.
Maybe
in your
even
turn.
a hit in Overwatch.
Maybe even a hit in Overwatch. Or
a
wound in Overwatch. Because it annihilates everything it shoots at in its shooting phase. Really reliably, because either it has blast and devastating wounds, or it has very high damage AP and damage.
And devastating wounds.
And devastating wounds as well. But on Overwatch, this thing is actually really terrifying. You give it guide, and you shoot, and with blast, you're rolling an average of 8 shots at people, and you just keep your 6s. You don't sub one in with a fate die. You just roll dice, and 8 shots, you're rolling 16 dice, fishing for 6s.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a couple hits. Then you roll 1, and you re-roll with the Eldar thing, and then you roll all but 1, and you re-roll one of them, and you try and fish for a 6. And then you slap in a second one, and you just annihilate people on Overwatch. I have seen this thing kill units on Overwatch.
Yeah, I've seen this thing do 20 mortals in Overwatch just because it spiked up a little bit, but hey, there was blast. 20 mortals done.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
You roll 1 or 2 6s on the wound roll.
Or just decimate a unit.
Yeah, you just cripple a unit that was coming in to do something. It's just like, bye. Just miserable. You can never walk in range of this thing without risking the fact you're going to take a hit. And because it's re-rolling its hits, firing a decent number of shots, you're going to get some amount of hits. And if one of those is naturally a 6, you suddenly take 14 mortals on average.
It's untenable.
Because if one of them is a 6, you fate die in the last one, and you're just like, boom! And that unit of Terminators that was walking up to kill me is now a 5-man, not a 10-man.
So, when faced with a Wraith Knight, it is very clear that it is not a good idea to attempt to tank 5 turns of shooting. So let's try to kill it. It is a knight, has Wraith Knight in the name. So it's T12 like a knight. It is only, 18 moves? 16 moves?
It's 18. I don't know how we haven't said the word towering yet, but we will a lot in a second.
We're getting there soon. Okay, so it's a lot of wounds. Less than a knight, but it's -1 damage and has a 2-up save. But no invuln. So theoretically it's vulnerable to the vaunted AP5 ignore cover.
That exists.
Yeah, obviously that exists.
That exists in the game.
And it's so easy to get cover for even a towering model like the Wraith Knight that that's kind of a big deal.
If his big toe is in cover, you better believe he has a 1-up save.
Yeah, so killing the Wraith Knight with shooting, very difficult. -1 damage slows it down a lot. Fate dice on defense against the most critical thing that goes in, very important. Farseer's, the thing that flips 6s, can also make him tougher. We haven't mentioned it yet, but you could have Fortune on it, on a 2+ from a Farseer who is also there flipping your dice to 6s. That would make him -1 to wound. And T12 -1 to wound, you might as well be T20 at that point. Because anything T11 and down or strength 11 and down, wounds it on
sixes. So toughness 22.
Yeah. Then it's weird. If you've got good strength 14 stuff, you can still wound it on 4s. So that's nice. But man, a fully buffed Wraith Knight, very hard to kill.
And they don't even put Fortune on him. They put Fortune on the Incarn because the Wraith Knight won't die.
Yeah.
Even without -1 to wound, it just won't die.
Some armies can bring it down. Some can't.
Not very many can do it with Fortune.
Very few can do it with Fortune. And if you lose your stuff in Overwatch or to the shooting before it happens, because you couldn't hide from towering, it's very difficult to hide from a Wraith Knight, especially on certain deployments like GW style with their terrain.
Yep.
Once you get to the point where the Wraith Knight gets to shoot you all the time and gets to Overwatch, it is very likely that you run out of credible damage before they run out of wounds on the Wraith Knight. And if you ever reach that point, the game is likely salted.
Yeah, completely salt. Also, this thing is not slow, it is hypermobile.
Has access to all the other stratagems.
It moves 10. It has access to Fire and Fade to move again at the end of the shooting phase.
Phantasm.
And then it has access to Phantasm to move at the end of your movement phase. If you line up a shot on it, it can move out of line of sight. It can move out of range.
After it overwatches.
After it overwatches you. Like, it overwatches you, cripples you, leaves. What are you supposed to do about that? What are you supposed to do? And it's towering, so hiding from this tall...
Because he's gangly. He is tall. The Wraith Knight is significantly taller than an Imperial Knight.
Also, the way it's posed on the box is like with one arm out, one arm up.
So if anyone wanted to point the gun straight up, that would just make it taller, not shorter.
Yeah. That's how the instructions tell you to assemble it with like one of the arm configurations. It's just one of the guns straight in the sky. So it is humongous. There's no hiding from it. And yeah, and you're not killing it. And it's overwatching you to death. And it's shooting you to death. And it's jumping around the board 50 times.
Yeah, so the Wraith Knight has earned its spot on top of this list.
Absolutely. There's a reason why most, if not all of not all of them, but like almost all of the WTC teams have a Wraith Knight on their list.
Yeah. Everyone has Eldar. Most Eldar lists have a Wraith Knight. It's not mandatory because Eldar is very strong, but it is still so dang good.
As soon as you play into a Wraith Knight where the person is using it to its fullest, you will feel it.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we close out this show, we do have a super chat from Scott. I can't quite read that.
Nagao?
Thank you. Yep, the monitor's far from me.
All right, $5 super chat says, "Hear me out. Telemon not that bad, more durable but less shooty than the Redemptor."
I quite like the Telemon.
Yeah.
I don't think that it has like enough of a role, I guess is my problem, because Custodians don't struggle for durability at the moment. But I do like the Telemon, and I could very much see a world where the Telemon doesn't change at all, but the meta changes to the point that I would want to include one. So I'm very hyped for the Telemon. I like that it's kind of where it's at. And I definitely want to try to get on the table at some point as I continue to test Custodies. Because you know what? The Telemon is one of those models that made me want to play Custodies. So I would love to get my Telemons back on the table again.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for the support, Scott. We really appreciate you.
Okay. That is our top 10 monsters and vehicles list. There were some there at the end that are maybe a little too strong. And yeah, we'll see what they do about Eldar in the future, about, say, some of those top 5 vehicles. Top 4, maybe, not Rex.
Let's do it. All right. Thank you for watching, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure that you hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing to the channel is how we get to continue doing this, how we get to keep putting out these videos that you all love to watch. So we appreciate your support. And if you want to get even more amazing Art of War content, make sure you check out that link in the description below. That's going to give you a free 3-day trial to the War Room at thewarroom.vhx.tv. That's where you can get access to our wonderful global community and learn from the best players about how to become better at the game you love. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.